Okay, good morning, guys. So today we are here to discuss participate in our first conference session. The topic for today's session is becoming an unstoppable real estate agent. So basically, today we'll be covering several topics regarding the behavioral factors to meet as a realtor, how to start a real estate business in Sri Lanka, and what are the how to disrupt the negative effects from COVID-19 as a realtor, as well as how to create delightful customer. And for today's moderation, I would like to introduce Tharindu Jayaratna, our head of research. And welcome, Tharindu.
Thank you, Izuru. Very good morning to all of you. And today our first speaker is Mr. Ramesh Angunawala, CEO, founder, Zoom Real Estate Sri Lanka and Amazon Real Estate Sri Lanka. He's having 20 years of experience in real estate industry, especially in Sri Lanka and abroad, especially in USA and Canada range. And I would like to invite Mr. Ramesh Angunawala to begin the conference.
Thank you, Tharindu. Good morning to everybody out there. A big thank you goes out to people at Lanka Property Web. I think you guys are doing an excellent job. Congratulations on everything that you do. And there is no doubt in my mind that you guys are the #1 online website dealing with properties in Sri Lanka. So congratulations on that. And you've had a nice 11-year history of doing so. Coming back to being a successful realtor in Sri Lanka, the ground play is a little bit different, or what you need to do in this market is a little bit different, but can you achieve it? Absolutely. It's got all the necessary things that go into play for you to become a successful realtor. One thing that I need to let people know is that, I've worked in North America as a developer. I've helped realtors, I've helped buyers, sellers. I've done a lot of financing in there, helped them with their mortgages to the works. So what I see is the North American market is highly regulated. Sri Lankan market not so regulated, but there is a part that is regulated. So, but the only thing is, what we do lack in the market is proper training. More than the licensing process or the regulation part of it, I think what we lack are realtors or real estate agents being trained properly. So coming back to the topic of how can you become one of the best agents in the country, like in any other field, it takes good habits. Good habits would include working hard. If you want to be a good realtor, and if you're waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning, it's not going to work. You've got to get up early, plan your day, and then just like a cricketer would basically go into the field and then start batting, you've got to keep batting till the end of the day. So literally, what I have to tell people on the habits part of becoming a realtor is you got to know what you're selling. You got to know what advice you're basically going to give. Like, you got to be properly trained. So let's say as a realtor, you'd be basically either selling or leasing or renting land. You'd be selling houses or apartments or industrial or commercial facilities in the country. So you've got to know your area very, very well. And then you got to know your product very well. So let's say if I'm basically selling a property down Gaul Road, for instance, because everybody knows Gaul Road, and the address is, let's say, number 24 Gaul Road, I need to know exactly what the building is, how old is the building, what's the square footage of the building, and then we also get a lot size. Literally what it means is the size of the block, what the size of the block is, and the advantages and disadvantages of the property, plus regulations that will make it a little bit difficult or good, or that will fall in place where there may be an advantage to the buyer who's looking to buy this property. Habits will, number one, be getting up in the morning, having a schedule for the day, a proper schedule for the day, going in front of clients, being truthful about what you do, and then closing transactions that will benefit the buyer and the seller, landlord or the tenant. So these are the main aspects of being a successful realtor. Then the question might arise, why would one select real estate? So just like somebody needing shelter, somebody needing food and clothing, real estate is a need. Everybody needs. You need a place to stay. Everybody needs a place to stay. So that gives you huge potential, because and then what you do is not just something that where you will earn money, but it is a service. It's a beautiful service. You're basically getting somebody to move into a house or buy a house and start a life in that particular place, which is a beautiful thing. You'll feel happy doing that. I'm going to touch base on what's happening in the real estate market, on the regulated part of it, and how the challenges that one agent may have right now. In North America, what happens is the market is highly regulated. So when you say highly regulated, is that when you go into a transaction, like I'll take an example of a sale of a particular property. What happens is you have a buyer and a seller, obviously. You got an agent representing the buyer, and you got another agent representing the seller. And sometimes, one agent might represent both, depending on what kind of documentation that is being signed. And we also have a lawyer representing the buyer, and we also have a lawyer representing the seller. So the interest of the seller and the interest of the buyer is well met with these lawyers working independently. Then, of course, we have the registration process, the land transfer taxes that needs to be paid and whatnot. And then transaction gets inputted online into a system where there is a cutoff time of 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. or whatever the case may be. And everything is recorded as per the document. So let me give you an example. If you buy a house for $800,000 in Canada, the recording is for $800,000. And so keep in mind, the way that the Sri Lankan market works in comparison is totally different. So let me take the same example, a buyer and seller, somebody selling a house. So here we got the seller wanting to sell his property, but he doesn't have one agent. He's got 1 million agents. And sometimes he himself don't know who the agents are, because the agents would tell other people, and apparently they have become agents, and the seller has no idea. And that's not even his concern. All what he's looking for is a buyer to come and then basically purchase this property. So we got a huge problem in that sense, where we can keep a particular price for that particular house. So let's say, if I take an example, Buller's Lane, if I want to sell a property for 150 million, the seller comes and tells me, okay, I want at least 150 million for this particular property. I, as the agent, if I was the sole agent, I'll be marketing it at 150. I will want to get 150 for the seller. But here what happens is, in this particular market, when you say the property is 150 and you have so many agents, everybody is looking to make money. They're not concerned about the seller. They're not concerned about the buyer, because it's so unregulated. So what they do is, they somehow, if they can make any money out of this transaction, usually the commission rates in Sri Lanka is about 3% for every sale. Their only concern is making the money. They don't care about how the transaction gets done, whether they are truthful about the matter or not. They just try to, if they can't force it on the buyer, they'll try to do that and then earn their money and just walk out of it. And then it becomes a little bit difficult to maintain a good price for the seller. So if he wanted to sell it at 150 million, we find in the market, because there are so many agents working towards selling your house, your property actually sells at about 120 million. So you have a huge drop in price. because you've gone that particular route. In North America, what happens is this: you always see the selling agent has sold a property for more than asking. So let's say, I mean, that is where it is mostly. About 90% of the transactions you see, the selling agent has sold more than what the seller wanted for, because it's there's a kind of a guarantee as far as the price is concerned. So if it was if I go back into my old example of, you know, a house in Toronto being sold for $800,000, and I am the selling agent, I keep it at $800,000, and I want the best for my client. So I work hard for my client, because the buyer comes with his or her own agent who's working very hard for them. So literally it makes sense for me to work hard, because I'm representing only one party in here, and which is only the seller. So I try to get the best for the seller, and then this way the seller wins, and the market prices are pretty stable. So another thing that happens in the North American market is when a transaction goes through, let's say for $800,000, the example that I just took, the document gets registered for that $800,000. It doesn't get registered for $600,000 or $400,000. In comparison, what's happening in Sri Lanka is totally different, because if you have a transaction going at 150 million, by the time the transaction basically goes into the registration part of it, they've reduced the stamp fee, because they don't want to pay too much stamp fee. They would basically say, you know, they didn't get 150 million, they got only 100 million, and try to reduce their stamp fees. But that particular problem is now getting rectified, because now the Inland Revenue is has certain things that are put in place to rectify that particular problem. But what the most important fact is, what is the correct market price for a particular house that you want to buy in a particular street? That is where the problem is in the Sri Lankan market. So let's say if you take Buller's Lane, what's the market rate? What's the average price of a house in that particular neighborhood, or what's the average purchase price for a perch, which is about 272 to 273 square feet? What's the average price for that? That is where we have a problem, because it's not recorded property, and it's not regulated. Because it's not regulated, one person sells it at 150 million, the other person sells it at 100 million, another sells it at 90 million. So there is no proper market price for a buyer to go into the market and buy it at the correct market price. Coming back to the topic of being a very successful real estate agent, hard work is one thing, and then having a proper plan is another thing, but you got to be truthful. If you're not truthful, you can't be a good real estate agent. And if you're thinking always about the money part of it, like, you know, you want to earn the money, and that's your key role, you know, this is what you want to do. You want to earn a lot of money and be this rich person out there, you're not going to be a successful agent. And even if you are going to be a successful agent, I guarantee that you're going to have problems. I guarantee you're going to have problems. So get your act together. So it's not just the money. It's a beautiful service that you offer to your clientele out there. And then what you got to do is you got to be very, very, very trustworthy in going about it. So think of it like this. If you were a buyer, would you be paying a particular price for that particular property that you are showing? So let's say a property is, I'll take the same example, Buller's Lane, a house is for sale for 150 million. And if you are representing the buyer, think about it. At 150 million, you will earn 3% of commission, which is going to be good money for you. But it will have a direct impact on your career if you have sold that particular property for a higher price. So if you were the buyer, would you pay 150 million for that particular property? So think of it in that sense. If you're an agent, think that, okay, hey, if I was going to buy this property, would I want my agent to mess me up by trying to pay a huge price than what is expected? So you have to be that particular person. You have to think of it as if, you know, you are the person who's buying it. This is going to be your hard-earned money that is going to go into the property. And would you pay 150 million Or would you basically think that this particular price is only 120 million and then try to get that benefit across to the person who's buying the property? So being truthful is very, very important, and representing the client in a sense where you protect them in that sense and protect their money is going to be a great advantage for your career on the long term. But of course, if you're here for the short term, I would say please don't even go into real estate. Just try to find something that is good for you and move on. So these are certain tips of being successful in the real estate market. Of course, you have to know your product very well. Whatever you're selling, you have to know it very, very well. You have to know what the market prices in that particular area is. You have to get up and you've got to have a schedule. You've got to have targets. You've got to have goals, and those goals have to be balanced properly so that they are not your goals as per se, but you have a goal which will make you a good realtor, and you'll have a name of being a very honest, truthful, a good realtor, given by obviously your clientele. So this is what I got to say about being a successful realtor. As far as the Sri Lankan market is concerned, as to what we can do in the future to make this Sri Lankan real estate market work well, I see a part of the people basically saying that the market has to be regulated and it has to be highly regulated, but there is also another part to it, because Sri Lanka's unemployment rate is on the high side. So we might have somebody who has not even gone up to the O-level stage, but that does not mean that the person is dumb. I think more than the regulating part of it, what is lacking is the training part of it. So if somebody has crashed their O-levels or crashed their A-levels, does not mean that they're dumb, because their interest at that particular time was different. Some people would have different interests at that particular. It could be sports, it could be certain other things. Their interests would have been different. But right now, when they get into, let's say, a career as per se, they can put their heart and soul and get trained properly and still be a very, very successful realtor. Because I've seen so many people in North America who didn't have the best education, or who weren't straight A students, but they've become very, very successful in the real estate business because they were willing to commit. They were willing to work hard, and they were willing to learn everything that they needed to learn. I remember this friend of mine who basically who had crashed his O-levels in Sri Lanka, and then he came up to me and I said, you know what, don't worry about it. Just go ahead, just move forward, and then do what you need to do, and get your license and be a real estate agent. And he did that, and he's doing okay. He's doing okay. He's doing all right. So, and just know that real estate is something that you can do. You have to do full time. You can't do it part time. You can't have another job on the side and think you're going to be successful doing real estate. And yes, will you be having your challenges? Obviously, you're going to have challenges with like any other job. When you become a real estate agent, the first few months are going to be terrible for you, because you're learning so many things, and then you're trying to find a buyer, you're trying to find a seller, and it's going to be difficult on you. But eventually you will learn the trade well, and eventually you will learn to cope up with things. Like I said, just keep one thing in mind. One thing that you need to keep in mind is be truthful, even if you have to lose the sale. Doesn't matter. Even if you have to lose a tenant or a seller or a buyer, whatever the case may be truthful. The more you become truthful, you can sleep well at night. You haven't done anything wrong to anybody. You've done your best. Of course, you're going to have a lot of clients out there who's going to take advantage of you because of your character or the way you basically go about it. Don't worry about it, because in any business there is that 20% or 30% that you're going to lose. So keep that in mind. You'll have your disappointments. You'll have people who let you down. You'll have people who will not pay you for the kind of work that you've done. You'll have that. You'll have that. But don't get angry. Don't get bitter. Don't go after people who have let you down. Just concentrate on your game plan. Your game plan is just to be a good real estate agent, and then just do your job to the best of your knowledge. Anyway, it was a pleasure coming on this show. If there are any questions, you can obviously ask Lanka Property Web, and then we'll be able to help you out. I wish you all the very best in becoming a successful realtor. But remember, you got to keep just this thing in mind: be a truthful, hardworking player in the market, and you'll go a long way. All the best to you, Tarindu. On to you, brother.
Yes, thank you so much, Ramesh, for your fruitful sharing on how to be a successful realtor. And ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for our next topic to know about how to start and grow your real estate business in Sri Lanka. Thank you. Thank you, Ramesh.
Thank you.
Over to you, Siru.
Yeah, thank you, Tarindu. So I hope that was a very insightful topic that we discussed here. Thanks, Ramesh, again for your delightful insights. So before we go to the next topic, there are few. We have some messages from our sponsors. Stay tuned.